So we're focused on the next three Tuesdays away from Election Day in the United States, where we won't be done, won't have an answer because of absentee ballots and all other things can be counted. Even though Donald Trump will say he won essentially 20 minutes after the voting is closed in Georgia, with three other time zones to keep voting, we know it'll be a while before we get an actual count for votes going on. It'll take a couple hours, take a couple of days in some places, and the litigation will begin once people start declaring that they won when we know they may have not. We won't put any litigation in that right now. In this quick impromptu video that we're going to talk right now, we're going to talk about some of the comments that I'm getting across the board with a lot of the voters in a lot of the comments and a lot of the videos we're putting out there for people to jump onto for the debate between whether they should vote for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump in the upcoming election 3 Tuesdays or so from now. And the biggest issue we're going to start off right now is the ethnic problem, specifically the black men problem that both of these candidates have going forward. Character number one, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is looking to actually do better with black men than any Republican has done in at least 30 years. It's out there, and the reasons are pretty obvious. There are people who believe that money wise, they are doing better under Donald Trump 4 years ago. And there are people who believe that liberal wise, Kamala Harris is a crazy sort of liberal person who make things go even worse than what Joe Biden did. Now, the realities of these things are economies were different 4 years ago. And one, we dealt with COVID, where COVID started to wreck the economy. And then Donald Trump pumped fake money into the economy and wrote his name on the check. So people thought that people believe that Donald Trump wrote them a check. He signed the checks for everyone. It's just, it doesn't really matter whose name is on a check. Their government checks are going to pass. So they believe that Donald Trump did something for them, sent them money directly to get things going forward. It also delayed some of the money getting out there and made things a bit more complicated. But that's not the basic part. There are people out there who believe Donald Trump made things happen when COVID happened and made things happen for the economy. And the fact that things got worse were an issue of Biden coming in and pressing some buttons. The reality is Donald Trump actually inherited the uptrend that was coming out of the Obama administration. And many of the things he did just to be mad at Obama essentially started tanking the economy, so that once Biden came in and started just start regulating things, getting things even and put things right, it was already too late. And things he was doing may have helped us not go so bad, but could not have really made the things as worse as they are. Times change and things go up and down, and it would have changed anyway. And definitely based on some of the actual policies that Donald Trump put in place, they would have changed for the worse in his second term as opposed to in the other person's term. And chances are the things he would have done to fix them, more of the same, would make them even worse. And we would not have the big debate over who to vote for, whether a Republican or a Democrat, because in most cases, we'd be sick and tired of Donald Trump anyway and not want to take whoever he'd be taking for the second term. Most likely, it'd been Mike Pence getting his shot to be the president. That is why vice presidents rarely get a chance to be presidents, because in the second terms, things go worse for the main president, and people don't want to deal with that as a backlash for that guy, which turns into a backlash for the person running. Now, this is a boon for Kamala Harris, who gets the chance, gets the option, gets the lucky shot to run as the vice president to a current president who only went one term. And for a president that people saw in the end of this term thought, well, he ain't going to make it, so maybe Kamala can keep things going. And she also has what's going for is that she's not Donald Trump. That may be a blessing and a curse, because she's not Donald Trump. So people who want Trump will obviously vote for Trump. But she's not Donald Trump means that all the things that Trump does that are crazy, insane, and just downright weird are a good vote for her, because she is considered sane by comparison. You may not like her policies, you may not like her as a person, but she's not Donald Trump. And that is the plus she has right now. Let's go to black men, the main point we have the point for this one. As a black man, myself, let me tell you exactly how I feel about Donald Trump. First about Kamala Harris, and then Donald Trump. How do I feel about Kamala Harris? I'm not a fan. Never really been a fan. She's not my senator, so I have no reason to really say much ill about her, because she doesn't really control my politics. Not in California, because I've lived across the South, nowhere near out West, and I have my issues with California politics anyway. She is a prominent senator, or was a prominent senator when she was in the Senate, but not enough for me to care more about than other than just the name that was there. As vice president, she has not knocked the doors off the barn by any chances of anything she's done. She's done okay, but vice president's jobs aren't supposed to be doing anything important. In fact, the job is really to not embarrass their bosses. And she has, in many cases, with her performances, embarrassed her boss on a lot of cases. She broke barriers by being the first Black and Asian female vice president, but she also didn't perform as well as she could have. Now, remember, she got that gig as vice president after running for president and taking the consolation prize to run on the ticket with Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who I wasn't really, thrilled about voting for in the first place, but he was who us black folks told to vote for, and he got the case. And Kamala Harris, who I wasn't thrilled to vote for in the first place, I wasn't planning on voting for, except the fact that she was running against, if she won the nomination, Donald Trump. And there's your point right there. For people who are dealing with a lot of, let's say, deep seated red pill type issues, they're saying a lot of things for men in general and black men in particular are, this is a woman, this is a black woman, this is an Indian woman. You can't tell what she is sometimes. But the thought process of having women in charge is an issue. That's why a lot of people are leaning towards Donald Trump. Thought process that a woman be able to stand up to anybody else out there at all is an issue. That's why people are leaning towards Donald Trump. The thought process that are actual politics, that she, as a prosecutor in California, did a whole lot to put a whole lot of black folks behind bars on what seemed like simple things like drug charges, because it was the plan of the day. It was the flavor of the day. She is tough on crime. She was tough on crime, and it meant a lot of lower level drug offenders got a lot of time in various places. While in California, she has that to crow on. That's actually a fairly good thing that she was able to take a lot of things. But a lot of people caught in the crossfire tend to be low level drug offenders, which is a black man issue. It should be a whole man issue, if you will, but it's a black man issue because we get lumped in those things. We're not a monolith, but it happens anyway. So why won't black men vote for Kamala Harris? Well, if Barack Obama's out there saying, "What's wrong, you black men? You need to go vote for the girl because it's what's going to happen," there's a problem. The big issue is black men don't vote in mass in general. Now, men in general vote. White men who hold all the cards in power vote a lot, and white women vote a lot, and black women vote a lot as well. Black women essentially carry the Democratic vote going forward. But men of other ethnicities, both Hispanic and black, tend to not vote as well, except when they're voting more Republican. Now, Hispanic voters are leaning more Republican because they have more conservative values, they have more of those economic values, and culture wise, the actual thought process of people who do immigration, and immigration being a Hispanic, a Latino type issue, many Hispanics and Latinos who are here and took the long route of getting here legally aren't all that thrilled with people who are, jumping the line and crossing the border. That's kind of an exception for people who are Cuban, because anybody who basically steps on foot from Cuba, steps on the land, gets a chance, gets asylum, flat up asylum, not just a chance to apply for it. Cubans are a little bit different, but Hispanics are also not a monolith, and they're easy to kind of apply their actual sort of flavor of Hispanicity, not a real word, their flavor of their actual background based on where they're coming from and the conditions of those places and how they live going forward. Everyone's kind of says Mexican as a kind of catch all for Hispanics, but it's not all Mexicans. They're not all Mexicans. Let's put it like that. But black men in particular, black men are looking for a strong man like Donald Trump. So is being said by at least Donald Trump and his camp, to fix things, right the wrongs. He's bringing back black jobs. He's keeping the legals from taking your jobs, which are roofers and hotel workers and maids and things like that, because black jobs are roofers and hotel workers and maids. I'm trying to become a TV journalist. I'm trying to become a radio broadcaster. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to slide into Rush Limbaugh's job, and he's been gone for a while. There aren't too many people crossing the border who are looking for that job. So they're not trying to take my job or my black job. They're just trying to take jobs that aren't being available. Donald Trump wants to do a mass deportation. And the problem with that deportation is it can take a lot of people who do a lot of the working, a lot of the picking, a lot of the building, a lot of the maintenance, a lot of the the hotel work, a lot of the maid work, a lot of the stuff like that. But we're talking about black men for best black purpose here and the black man issue. In 2 weeks, in 2.5 weeks or so, 3 weeks, we're going to have to start counting these votes. Early voting in Arkansas starts on Monday, tomorrow, as I record this. So I'm probably going to vote because my place of work, my school, is using a part of our gym for early voting. So I have no excuse. I can take my lunch break and vote and be done with it. I don't even have to wait till after work to take care of it, or Saturday. So I'll put in my vote tomorrow, more or less, or Tuesday, based on how the day goes. But the issue for black votes is essentially the same issues they always are. Availability. Can you get to the polls? Early voting should make it easier to get to a poll someplace because you've got time on a Saturday, you got time at lunch, time after work or before work in the middle of the week before things get crazy on election day when everybody's in line. So go get it done. You have absentee voting of some sort in most cases, voting by mail in some cases, where you can take your ballot, you can fill it out on paper, you can do whatever magical thing you must do to make sure it's certified, and drop it in the mail or drop it into a drop box to be counted. Granted, the Republicans are now calling this cheating because they think, once they find out they're losing, they'll start counting those magical votes, and all of a sudden, the Democrats will be winning because they'll make up votes. The problem with the fake votes and the voting irrealities that are coming from cheating is that the percentages are, in most cases, less than 1% across the nation. And the people that tend to do this either cheat or screw up enough that it gets caught as cheating tend to be voting for Republicans because it tend to be older voters who have actually messed something up and we're paying attention. We're not talking about older voters right now. We're talking about the black voters. So the ability to get to a ballot should be there unless you're in a place where they are trying to take away some rights for votings. In many places along the last 15 years, there have been many attempts, many workings, many people for civil rights and just general liberties of states to get more people who have convictions, felonies, and some misdemeanors. Some misdemeanors can take away your right to vote. Definitely felonies do. To get those rights reinstated, get your rights to vote back. And many people have done that. And there have been a lot of cases of chasing people away from doing that. People who believe they have the rights to vote back are being arrested or being prosecuted, persecuted, talked about for maybe putting in a false vote, which of course would put them back in jail. So they're being scared away from the polls. Ironically, some of the people, at least anecdotally, people that they're putting out there, people that you see on the news, are black people, black men in particular. So that's one way to keep them from voting. Telling them to vote doesn't count. I mean, this is something I'm actually guilty of because in the nuances of actual election stuff, your one vote doesn't count towards anything. Your collective vote against or for something means something if your vote count is more or less than what the threshold is. And even if your vote does not tally towards a win, your vote registers towards a number that gives you a reason to say, this is how many people actually did not want this to happen. When we talk about the popular vote and the Democrats winning the popular vote, that's a metric. That's not how they win the election. The election is won by electoral college, and that's a whole bunch of magic that was meant to hold the man, that man hold people down in itself. But think about what it takes to get the popular vote. Even winning by a small margin means that many more people by percentage wanted this than the other thing. In many cases where they have ranked choice voting, or if you have a primary, you don't get a win in a primary or don't get a win in a general, you have to go to another election for a runoff election. It tells you who got a better chance. If there's 5 people on the ballot for a primary and none of them gets 50%, 50% plus 1, that means one person didn't overwhelmingly win over people. And that means that 2 people will get a chance to get that win, and someone must get 50% plus 1 and get out for that one. So coming in second in a vote like that makes a difference between third, fourth, and fifth. That's a nuance that gets lost in things. So there's plenty of reasons to tell people not to vote because your vote won't matter. Your candidate won't win. You're going to get in trouble. It's all just a hoax. Your time, your energy, your say isn't important. In a few weeks, I'm going to publish a book called the Now What Manifesto. And a few days after that, we're going to open up a website called the Now What Network, which is about voting. It's an offshoot from the Conversation Project. It's meant to hold some account to your elected officials and what also the elected initiatives you put into place that you want them to deal with. And this is based on, for all practical purposes, bipartisanship. It's based on getting the people who actually won to do what they said they're going to do, or to not do so many things that you suspect they're going to do that'll make things worse. It also allows the people who didn't win to actually stay involved, to keep staying in the case. And if it turns out that the person that won, maybe the person you voted for, did not quite give you what you were looking for, these other people, this other person can regroup and try again and have their second, third shot at the apple going forward for elections. Many people, Joe Biden tried to run for president like 20 times. He may have been the youngest senator when he actually won his seat, but he spent all the time since then trying to run for president, didn't get there till he was almost 80 years old. And now that he's 80 years old, we don't want him there anymore. What's it going to take to get people to vote? What's it going to take to get black people to vote, white people to vote, Hispanic people? What's it going to take for the people who have the legal right as legal citizens of this nation, who came here and became naturalized, not to be scared because someone's going to say what they say has no merit? And particularly because we still got 3 weeks, we'll have to make this thing interesting. What's it going to take for people with my skin complexion to go out there and vote? Whether they are young cats who don't believe it works, or old folks who are just sure that those Republicans are going to cheat and make it work for them anyway. What's it going to take to make sure we get out there and say our say? Because it's more important, win or lose, to make sure your say is said than it is to just think, well, my guy's going to win, so I don't need to show up, or my guy's going to lose, so I don't need to show up. In a future video, I told you what I felt about Kamala Harris, but in a future video, I'll talk about my actual vote, my reason behind my vote, and how that came to, because it's not fair for right now. Not that anybody cares what I think on this case, because trust me, I read the comments, but it matters more in the case of what's at stake here, what we're talking about. We keep saying this is the most important election of our lifetimes. They all are. Each one going forward is election going forward. But this one has some issues that, because of what we've seen in Donald Trump and what we have seen in Joe Biden and what will become of most of those policies with Kamala Harris, a side-by-side comparison of what we can look forward to in the next 4 years, minus any weird things that we don't have control over. Other nations attacking other nations, we can't control that. Sure, it didn't happen while Donald Trump was in office, but trust me, the big time anniversary for October 7th didn't happen while Donald Trump was in office either. If that timeline came as it did here, yeah, Hamas would have did it anyway because they wanted to cause have some sort of a message. But Russia has invaded in Ukraine. Well, considering that Donald Trump is telling NATO nations that if they're not paying up their fair share, then Russia can do what the hell they want to, they probably would have invaded Ukraine. They probably would have done something like that at some point in time. And we as the United States would not have been putting up as much effort, funds, and people and equipment and whatnot to help them fight their battles as we're doing right now. Elections coming up November 5th, 2024. We're going to vote for a lot of things on a local level. So make sure you actually look at your ballot ahead of time. Look what initiatives are on the ballot. Right now, here where I live in Little Rock, Arkansas, we have 2 initiatives for sales tax, local sales tax, which many people, as you know, with sales taxes, once you go on the books, it's hard to get them off the books. And people here are complaining a lot about a lot of things not getting done. But the cities say they don't have the money for it. And so this is how they make it work. We have an initiative on casinos, which is confusing because they write them that way. And it's written to basically say that the people in their county should have a vote on whether a casino can go in, as opposed to business owners can just sort of put it on there because they made a deal with a nation, a tribe, or someone who owns the land that's off the books, someplace there. It's a little complicated. I have my ideas. Well, I'm going to vote for this one, but I'm still kind of commiserating with some folks to figure out what exactly people are actually want this to do and how the writing of it is actually being put. We have a lot of people who are on the ballots for local spots here. Local directors are back on the ballot. So I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to revote in our local one because Cappy Peck, you're probably not watching this here in Arkansas or in Little Rock, but Cappy Peck has taken good care of our neighborhood, our city in general, our neighborhood after we got hit by that tornado 2 years ago. And so we're going to stand by her, who she, of course, had damage to her business as well. She works in this neighborhood and had to deal with her own stuff. And she's taking care of us all along. Before then, definitely afterwards, and is fighting the good fights for all the things that are happening going forward. So we have that skin in the game. We have state representatives. We don't have a Senate, one for the Senate this term. And of course, we're voting for the President of the United States. Arkansas is going to go red. It's going to go red. It is. It's just what we know that's going to be. But the issue is, what's the actual vote count going to be for Arkansas? What's the popular vote going to be? By how much popular vote will Donald Trump win over Kamala Harris? I mean, the votes aren't cast yet, so we can't really say, with definite definition that it is there. But this is not a state that's up for contention. This state is going pretty much red. Donald Trump hasn't been here to do very much at all because he doesn't need to. This is the kind of way things go here for this state. We will see where the real numbers come through. We might even have some sort of election night coverage on Tuesday, just kind of pop in to see what's happening. Me watching the TV and just eating snacks and just seeing how things go, making fun of Anderson Cooper doing his thing. But here I am, an African American male, black male, born here in the United States, born in Alabama. So I'm not a naturalized citizen. I didn't have to take a test to be a citizen. I was just born here. My father, my mother were born here. My grandfather, my grandparents were born here. So we've been here for the generations that we were been here. And you can guess how we got here. And I'm going to vote. I've voted in every election, every presidential election since my first one for the first time going for Bill Clinton. And I voted for every winner except for the time I voted for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. Not that it means anything, but I've gone Republican, I've gone Democrat. My politics actually lean right of center. I am more leftish, if you will, slightly lefty for plans that are social programs, if you will, taking care of people. I want to take care of people, but I don't want to spend that much money on it. I also want to make as much money as possible. I don't follow the convention that it's all about pulling yourself from your bootstraps to make money, because if you ain't got no boots, you ain't got no straps to pull up from. Some people have no chance of getting better. Some people need to be taken care of until they get some sort of chance to get better. And some people have all the chances in the world and will do nothing but screw it up. That's how life works. That's how things are. And that's how I feel about the grand scheme of things. We'll talk about my actual vote in about 3 weeks. We'll talk about how things go voting wise continually in the Conversation Project, because we do news stories. You engage them. You tell me I'm an idiot for saying things, or these people are stupid for wanting this or whatever. But we can do this for a conversation. What you think is conversational, what you want to talk about, is what we talk about. It's how that stuff works. It goes that way. So you can help us do that by engaging with the stories on our feeds. Facebook.com/This is a Conversation Project. X.com/th_conversation. Threads.net/@This is a Conversation. Engage in the stories as they come through and tell those stories worth talking about. The political stories and the non-political stories, because we want to get as many things that aren't so much Kamala, Donald, because there's other things to talk about that actually make a difference. Taylor Swift may not make as much difference as we want her to, or she may make more difference than we want her to, based on your view of Taylor Swift. But things she does are conversational, and it keeps us chit-chatting. There you go. That's it for this video. It may not be the definitive reason on why black men are or aren't voting for Kamala Harris, or are or aren't voting for Donald Trump. Men seem to want a strong man in place, and men are a little leery of Kamala Harris. And you add that the factor of the color factor and some of the things in the background, even though Donald Trump is known for saying some things that are racist, and Kamala Harris is known for putting a lot of black men away in jail for minor things, there's still pros to go against those cons for them people to vote for that person in a couple weeks. You don't have to tell me who you're voting for. You can tell me just kind of how you're thinking about this, and you can tell me what you think about this actual issue. It is an issue. It's not something to be held back. This is an issue that is at least has the pundits talking on both sides, because trust me, Trump wants to say he won more black votes than anyone it has in 100 years. And Kamala Harris wants to win the election, and she needs all votes, especially ones that should be leaning towards her, people of ethnicity who is a little worried about what Donald Trump may do going forward. Give me your comments. Watch another video. Let us know how we're doing. Email us at the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Let us know how we are doing for things. And of course, stop by weekday mornings. The feeds are on Facebook. The feeds are on YouTube. The feeds are on X, where we give you a news update for the morning called Things You Might Not Have Heard, which goes through stories that you told us. That's why we talk about the feeds. You deem the stories worth talking about. You give us a hint on the stories that we're working to. We work them into a headline story. As I record this on a Sunday evening, we've got 10 stories in the queue, or will be in the queue for tomorrow. I can't tell you what they are yet. I have some ideas on some stories that are really, really big and hot, but we won't know until we pull them down tomorrow morning and sort them out and see which ones have a chance to make the cut and which ones I actually deem are the ones that will be the bigger story. So with that, I bid you much adieu. Love you guys. You need so much. Thank you for being in the family and be a big news nerd and a conversationalist with the rest of us. Click on some links, stop by some sponsors, consider being a partner, buy some merch, join the YouTube pages because you can join the membership there. Help us out. Have more commentary, more hot takes or long, slow takes like this one from a guy that just looks like a just regular guy. Trust me, I have some actual politics background, some political background. I have some actual journalism background, and we can go through those in conversation as well. Not just some guy rattling off on issues, though I am. I have a story to tell. You have a story to tell. Let's tell our stories together in conversation. Love you guys. Again, mean it so much. We'll talk more. Trust me, we'll talk more.